What's up guys, Mark here at Lone University. Welcome to lesson 111. In this lesson we'll be talking about how to incorporate more melody into your solos, whether they're improvised or written. So this lesson goes hand in hand very nicely with another lesson here in the archives called Breaking Away from Scales and Solos. And the common thread that runs between these two lessons is that it's going to help you to see your solo improvisation in just a different perspective, and sort of to help you break out of those same comfort zones you keep going back to that may make you feel like you're stuck in a rut and can't really progress with your ideas or creativity while soloing. So a very common thing I'm asked is how do you just keep from running scales and solos, or how do you come up with a good melody? What does it take to make a good melody? Well, it always harkens back to the same thing, is that creativity can't be taught, but if I give you enough options, creativity will be a lot easier and it will spark ideas that you didn't have before. So this is going to be a very simple lesson on concept, but it's going to be very challenging in a lot of other ways. And what we're going to do is we're going to simply solo on one string. And the little playing example that came on in the beginning of this video, I was doing exactly that. I did all my soloing here on this G string. So what this does is it forces you to play melodically. And the reason is because if you solo over multiple strings, you're immediately going to look down and see those same scale shapes that you've been seeing for a decade or however long you've been playing. And that's pretty natural because every music instructor on the planet, every instruction video with music or anything like that, scales is always what people are teaching, and myself included. And that's perfectly okay because scales are the building block of music. And what we're doing on one string with soloing is we're still thinking about scales, we're just playing them in a way that prevents you from playing them fast and in order. So if I'm soloing over multiple strings and I hear this track come on, I'm immediately going to gravitate to that. And, you know, I'm going to be right back in my same old ways of just running scales when I solo, because that's what you're comfortable with. From a very early start of playing our instruments, we're just taught scales and we get really comfortable with that. So when it's time to think on our toes and not really have much thought behind it, that's naturally what we do. But when you solo on one string, you don't have that luxury. I can't play a major scale. I can't do that on one string. It just doesn't work. So what it forces you to do is play much slower, and you really have to think about what you're playing before you play it because you're constantly moving. So you're almost putting limitations on your technique and just your simple physical ability to move around fast, and it forces you to play in smaller note groupings. And that's one thing I want to make you aware of with melodies, is that a majority of really good melodies, which is subjective of course, but if you think of just a good melody, you kind of think it's really close together in range. You don't have a melody that's going. Your melodies are just like 2 or 3 note groupings sort of around a scale, you know. So when I kind of play close together in close note groupings, you notice it's just much easier to think melodically. Just take these little 3 and 4 note groupings, repeat some notes, you know. It's okay to repeat a note when you play a solo, and a lot of people try to stray away from that because when they solo, they're like, oh, I gotta do the next coolest lick in my bag of tricks. So when you're on one string, it's just gonna force you really to play a melody, and you will find that it comes out very easy. So here we go. I'm gonna sort of just work with the 3 and 4 note groupings around my position and go from there. And just kind of stay in that note grouping. So basically when you move along the scale like that, you're just sort of stuck, and again, those 3 and 4 note groupings. When I go down to here, this is all I'm working with. When I go to here, and then I'm here, and as the frets get smaller, you kind of have more notes, but you're just stuck in each position and you're on one string. You're forced to make the best with what you got. So if I'm up here, you know, around frets 7 and 9, these are pretty much the 3 notes in my reach. And if I'm trying to access too many notes, you're going to quickly get really tired because you're just moving all over the place. So this is just a challenge to really make you make the best of what you have in your position. You don't have the luxury of just going. You're just stuck with 3 notes. And you got to really make, you know, some more rhythmic choices because you're compromising the amount of notes you have. So this sort of goes hand in hand once again with the breaking away from scales and solos lesson, where once again we talk about, instead of allowing yourself all 8 notes of the scale to solo with, just give yourself 3 notes. But this is going to really force you to do it because, you know, on one string you don't have any other option. So go to any of the tracks in our library, or any song that has a solo section you have in your iTunes library, just anything you can solo over, and I want you to identify the scale. I want you to try soloing over it on one string, and you'll find that you don't have those scale luxuries that you normally have, and you just have to make a melody out of a couple notes. And this is also a great test to see how, you know, versatile you are on the fretboard and comfortable with it. So once you're done with the G string, try the same thing on the D string. It's going to change up the positions a bit, and you know, simultaneously with this, you're going to be learning more about your fretboard than you thought before. Try it on the A string, try it on the E string, try it on the C string, whatever you got. But bottom line, even if you don't think you're good at creating melodies, you're going to naturally create really good melodies doing this because you don't have a choice. And, you know, again, as I say, don't be afraid to repeat a note. You don't have to be moving all over the fretboard at 90 miles per hour. You know, if I'm just sitting here on these 3 notes for 4 bars, create a really good melody with just 3 notes. So don't underestimate the ability of, you know, working with less. So less is more in this application. Give it a shot, and this is going to be only more challenging if the track really moves chords really quick. And there's some tracks in our library that move chord to chord quicker than this one. This pretty much, you can kind of pick the same scale, which is an A harmonic minor, and it works, you know, the entire time. So have a lot of fun with this and see what you come up with. I encourage you to give it a shot. Have fun. We'll see you next time.